Hi everybody, it is Monday, and you know what that means? It's time for your Monday Mortgage Minute. This is Sarah, and today I'd like to talk about crumbling foundations. The crumbling foundation crisis, as you know, is terrible in Connecticut. It is this horrible thing. It is pretty local to us. There's a little bit of problem in Massachusetts over the border, but the biggest problem is in Eastern Connecticut, and that doesn't mean it's just a problem for people in Eastern Connecticut. It's a problem for everybody in our state, and I think in New England, and then I think it's going to get even larger, more regional, and more national. We can't just devote a minute to this. I'm just going to hit some high points with the crumbling foundation crisis, and I encourage anybody who thinks they might be living in a house that has a crumbling foundation, who knows someone who might be, who works with someone who might be, who's related to someone who might be living in a house with a crumbling foundation. It doesn't mean it's like literally crumbling right now. The parameters are generally if your house was built after 1983 till about 2015 or 16 in generally the eastern part of the state. The quarry, the issue is that there's a quarry in Wellington that put out the material to make concrete foundations for about 30 plus years during that time frame, 1983 to about 2016, and concrete can generally be transported mixed about 30 miles until it becomes a problem, until it needs to be used. But now we're finding out that some of the material was actually trucked to further locations than the concrete made on site. So you're not limited to having the problem or being at risk of having the problem if you're outside of this 30-mile radius or so of Wellington, Connecticut. So that's one thing you should be thinking about and looking at. And the problem is that one major problem is you can make a claim to your insurance company and they will not pay it. And now the courts have established here in Connecticut that they will not pay a crumbling foundation homeowner's insurance claim. So you're not going to get help for the most part from your insurance company. You're possibly going to get some help from the state of Connecticut, but the state has set up what's called a captive insurance company. Just think of it as a fund you can apply to get money from to fix your foundation, but they only cover up to $175,000 of the actual concrete work. So the cost to disconnect all of your utilities, the cost to take out and then eventually replace your landscaping, your pools, your hot tubs, your decks, your front stairs, your driveway, your walkways, even issues with your garage, that's not necessarily going to be covered. So it can be a very expensive fix, which is out of the question for some families. A lot of people are getting their houses fixed, and that is fantastic. But with the funds available, the funds are slow to come out. Plus, now we're in winter. Some of the work can't necessarily be done this time of year. Plus, there's only so many companies who can do the work. And then there's only so much money available. And there's only so many families who can tolerate living through packing everything up, moving out of their house for a few months, living somewhere else, paying to live somewhere else, and then moving back in and having everything reconnected and everything reinstalled, like your stairs and your decks and things that make your house accessible. So while there is some help and it is making a difference in some neighborhoods, which is fantastic, there's not necessarily enough money right now to fix everybody's house. And what's the issue? The issue is that if you're living in a house that's built in this area, in this time frame, where you may have tested positive for having the element pyrrhotite in your foundation, which is think of it as rust. Think of it as an iron compound that rusts. So if it's exposed to air and water, like foundations generally are, it starts to expand. So you can't just patch it. You can't just skim over it and have it be okay, because it continues to absorb moisture and air and it continues to expand. So any fixes that have been attempted just almost get worse. They bust out, they expand out, and the cracks just go back the way they were or get worse. So that's one reason why this is such an expensive problem and such an expensive fix, and it affects home value. Nobody wants to move into a house knowing this could be an issue, because that just reduces the home value. And why is lowered home value a problem? Well, a lot of people hold a lot of their assets in their home equity. That is, they buy a home and they expect someday to sell that home and recoup the equity, meaning most of us buy houses by borrowing money. And then each month that we pay our mortgage, the balance on the mortgage goes down and our equity goes up, meaning you owe less, and the house is, hopefully also the house will appreciate in value over time. But with houses that have a crumbling foundation, or in a neighborhood where it's common, or in a town where it's common, those houses just have not retained their value. So now you might owe, say, $150,000 left on your mortgage, but now your house isn't worth $200 anymore. It's now worth $100 or less. Very likely, it's only worth what the value of your land is, the land that the house is built on. So it's a very complicated problem. I talk with people who aren't quite ready to commit to getting their house fixed for one reason or another. Either it doesn't make sense financially, or it doesn't make sense because they weren't planning on living there that long, or they couldn't tolerate living through the fix. And so they come to me and they say, gee, it really kills me to write that check every month to my mortgage company. I feel like the bank is getting everything and I'm getting nothing back. I'm getting no equity anymore. So they come to me and they talk about what would happen if they stopped paying their mortgage. So that's the conversation I have. It's just a conversation. It's not a commitment. It's not the end of the road. It's not committing yourself to something, doing something terrible. It's a strategy. I talk to people about a strategy if they have a crumbling foundation. A strategy that's tailored especially for each household, because I think all the houses need to be fixed. I think our state needs to get these houses fixed. Otherwise, there's going to be huge areas of homes that are going to have problems, and those neighborhoods and those towns and those counties are going to have major problems going forward. So I think the houses need to be fixed. But in the meantime, I talk to people who can't stay for one reason or another. Their house is too small, their house is too big, they need to move for work, they have to retire, they can't walk up and down the stairs anymore. So those families and those homeowners need a strategy. So that's what I do, is I have a conversation and a strategy session with homeowners who want to talk about what if I did this, what if I did that. So that's what I'm happy to offer people. And I just wanted to give an overview of the crumbling foundation problem. There's lots of information available on the internet. You can contact me and I can put some links in the comments here if you'd like to connect on Facebook more with other homeowners with the problem. If you'd like to know how to get in touch with the agency that's maintaining the money, the funds to help fix the problem, I can link to that as well. And I want you to submit your questions, whether on the comments here or privately to me directly, or contact my office, and we can talk about it more one-on-one, or I could do future mortgage minutes about